So what we're saying here is if you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur or you're thinking about going to entrepreneurship, and you think for one split second that you can halvesies be in this business that you're starting, you're 1,000% wrong. You will get slapped across the face.
Yeah, unless you just get lucky. So for everybody who did not know, this is another episode of
that big talk about that small business.
And today we're going to talk about employee engagement.
Ooh, that's a big topic. Hey, just a reminder to all the listeners, like, why are we here? We're here to help the entrepreneur or the aspiring entrepreneur, to know about some of the raw things, the real things that go on in business and what it really takes. It's not fluff, right? No. I mean, we're really trying to just help people that are they're in the weeds of it and about to get into the weeds of it, like give you a little taste about what's about to come.
Yeah. So maybe some tips.
Some little tips. Yeah. Some raw experience.
Yeah.
From myself and yourself that have been through a little bit of the ringer.
Yeah.
And then our guests that come on.
And still are in the ringer.
Still in the freaking, dude, in the weeds.
67 and a half, and I'm still in the ringer.
Yeah. And just right before the show, you said I look depressed today.
Well, you're never totally depressed. Maybe that was unfair.
Okay.
Maybe not at your highest energy level.
Well, you know what it was? I got, what sucked it out of me was just the amount of emails and text messages that I was having to trope through this morning.
Oh, yes.
It's insane.
Yeah, I know.
Insane.
Listen, every day it starts out with problems, as you've said before. I mean, this morning I discovered, significant errors in the cash flow forecast for one business. Okay. Fortunately, it actually, we have more cash than I thought we had.
Well, that's good.
In the short term.
That's a good problem.
Yeah. But that was one. And then just like a total lack of understanding about why we're doing what we're doing and why it's so essential in the people that have to be responsible for it. And then the next thing is I find out none of my classes have been scheduled for next semester. And I talked to my department chair about that. And we're going through some kind of conversion of our systems at U of A.
Yeah.
From from UA Connect to Workday Student. And he's just he was so angry at the screw ups and bureaucracy and paperwork and just very frustrated.
Yeah.
So
how do you, as Mark, as well, I mean, because you're one of the best I know at just hammering things out, right? Like, how do you come up with that? Like, you wake up, there's problems. You just like to take care of problems.
I just deal with it. I just deal with it. I'm serious.
Do you have a higher vision as to why you are dealing with it, or you're just freaking
higher vision?
Yeah, I don't know. Or do you just?
It's what I am. It's what I do. I'm a fixer. Okay, that's it. I don't know if there's any great vision there or not.
You just like to fix things.
Yes, I do. I enjoy fixing.
No, you do. And even going back to when you used to do your homes. You would pick out some pretty, nasty places, but turn them into beautiful things. And that was something, you just enjoyed the hell out of that.
I just put a post, I'm doing one down the street. And I just put a post on LinkedIn about that this morning.
Yeah.
And basically, what I was saying is that it takes attention to every single detail. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's what we do. All right.
Yeah.
Every closet is perfectly painted and refinished. Every garage floor, every light bulb, everything is clean. Every door closes like it's supposed to close and latches, and the cabinet doors are lined up, okay? And the beds are weeded, and the trees are trimmed, and the power washing has been done. And, and the gutters are clean, and the windows sparkle, and so, at night, we leave every single light on in the house, every light. And we have the AC turned below 70 in the summer and the heat turned above 70 in the winter. And the fireplace flues operate and the chimneys have been cleaned, okay? And if there needs to be a piece of furniture in an odd-shaped room to show people how it should be laid out, that furniture is in the place that it needs to go. And that's how we sell houses, okay? when the inspector comes in, they don't find a dirty furnace filter and a whatever. All right. It's ready to go. It's done. It's perfect. It's excellent. All right.
Excellent.
It's all about excellence. It's all about attention to detail. That's how you build, that business. That's how we got to be developers of the year. That's how we got best historic renovation award. That's how we got on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies during a real estate recession.
Yeah.
It's like it takes an obsession with details and they all combine into a whole. Okay? And that whole is excellent. And that whole is differentiated over the competition. Where you go in every other house, it's got 10 million things wrong with it. It's like, yeah, but that, forget all the buts. We don't want to hear your freaking buts. We want to be able to visualize moving in this thing and it's perfect and life is beautiful. Okay.
You like that, right?
I love that.
Yeah, painting that canvas of perfection and beauty. And
yeah, from the mailbox to the address numbers on the mailbox. I spent $39 for those to get the right ones that are raised. And, it's so many things.
Are you calculating your time and doing an ROI analysis? The mailbox numbers and all that?
No, not my time. My whole thing is how much money do I have in it and how much do I sell it for?
Yeah.
And the time value of money is charged against the job, whether it's put in with cash or it's borrowed. The time value of the money is a factor.
Yeah.
But I know every single penny. I mean, I can show you right here. You want to see it?
Yeah.
I'll show you. Take a look at that. Every day, every amount, down to the penny of every single.
And this is just this is what always amazes me, that this is just in your phone notes. So like you're doing, good grief, man. And you just write this down as you go about and spend.
That's how I know. I've got every day.
You're not putting this in QuickBooks or anything?
No, I don't put it in QuickBooks. I used to, but I don't.
Do you send this to somebody so they can put it in the books? No, you're just counting for the total.
I need it for my taxes, though.
Yeah.
Okay, when it comes down to it, at the end, when you go to sell this, I mean, you got a taxable gain on it, but you want to show as much cost as you can. But you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty detailed, isn't it?
It's really detailed.
Every single part, okay? But anyway, it's the obsession, excellence. Why do something if you're going to do a shitty job?
That's true.
Okay? Why?
Yeah.
So how do we get our employees to understand this?
That's right.
That's question today.
That is. Because if everybody in the company could have obsession with something, you can tie that to what they're doing, and then the company rises up as a true excellent company.
Yes.
But it absolutely drives me crazy that when I can't find what is it that you're passionate about.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because here's the first bit about employee engagement. Get the right employees.
Yeah.
They're not all going to be engaged.
Right.
Okay. They're just not. I mean, there's a variety of reasons that their whole life experience, plays such a big part of it. Their personality, stuff they're born with, we don't know.
Yeah.
Where it all comes from.
What they've been taught, what they believe.
Yeah.
What they're, I think there's a lot of, I've noticed there's this vacuum that seems to be getting more powerful, to be honest with you, of where folks are just not, it's almost like they don't recognize why they're even alive.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. But you know what, though? If you think about that, and I'm never one, I don't like to generalize about generations.
Right.
Or anything.
No, it doesn't matter, right?
But if you think back on our parents, now my dad and mom, they were Depression survivors in World War II.
Right.
Very difficult hand-to-hand combat. My dad, first lieutenant, survived, got his Bronze Star and his Silver Star and all that. And so they went through a lot, right? And they didn't have it real easy.
Right.
So maybe by the time we came along, we saw that they had the sort of mettle. They had the character to overcome obstacles.
Yeah.
Your dad grew up in Carbondale, Illinois.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. We never talked about what his parents did. But Carbondale is a pretty poor area. Okay, my guess is they probably weren't really well off.
No, my dad's dad was a postmaster.
There you
in
go.
Carbondale, right?
Sure.
But he was a teacher before, but he's the first one to graduate college. He served in World War II
Yeah.
as well. My mom's dad's served in the Navy in World War II, was a POW.
Wow.
And then he was also...
Was he in Germany or Japan?
No, Japan.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. No,
Being
it
a
was.
POW in Japan was beyond horrible.
Yeah, and then he was a
absolutely
mechanic, and then he broke his back doing. He was like the shift leader or whatever, or the shop leader, head mechanic, and then he was also his parents were coal miners.
Yeah. That's
So he grew up in
life.
yeah.
So the point is, I mean, you think about what some of those people had to survive and what they had to do to transcend
That's right.
those circumstances. Yeah, they were tough. They were determined. They
Surviving.
They had a motivation level. 100%. Today, people have too much. I mean,
It's too comfortable.
it is. It's just like, I can't believe, I saw a deal recently that was all on, and it's always, I've known this anyway, but it was like starter homes. What's the average home today? Well, in 1950, it was 900 square feet, had 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and no garage.
Yeah.
What's the average new home today? It's like 2,600 square feet.
Yeah.
2-car garage, 3 or 4 bedrooms, 3 baths.
So much stuff.
Okay. I mean, you can't even, it costs more. You can't even compare it.
Yeah.
Okay. Why is the expectation? I have students that graduate.
Yeah, and go out and buy something like
They
that.
go out and they buy something like that. I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling that that's where they think that they should start out, and they're willing to take on that kind of debt. Okay, and that they're still not that motivated. A lot of them, you know.
And it gets pretty depressing when you have everything and then you're still working and it doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem like, what are you working towards?
Yeah. You've already got everything.
You already got everything.
Right.
Yeah, so now you just want to chill. And then like your next level is to not work. And so the whole mentality becomes on.
That's death.
Yeah, it is. And you don't realize it until you're there. And then where's your ambition? Where's your passion? I guess passion has a lot. It's kind of really a new word if you really look at it, because like we were talking about our grandparents, like what
They never talk about
who gives a
passion.
crap about your passion?
Right.
It's like, did you earn or did you not earn?
Yeah.
Are you can you put food on the table or did you not?
True. That's it.
And living that and being that simple, we were actually talking about before, but you said it's about survival. It's about, and in order to survive, it's about being excellent.
Yes.
Right? You have to be excellent to survive.
And then you have people like us who we could survive comfortably, right? If we just did everything that we're, quote, supposed to.
Yeah.
But instead, we keep putting ourselves in these situations where it's like, why did I do that? Oh, my God, I got so much to lose here. It's like we keep putting ourselves into a survival situation. But we have confidence
Absolutely.
that we will overcome because we will do the work that it takes.
That's right.
To get to where we've got to go. It's like next week I got to give a seminar at one of the Walton College deal over here in Bentonville. That satellite deal we've got, and it's some kind of a seminar, but on innovation in marketing and all.
Yeah.
And you know what I want to say? I mean, truthfully, I don't need that much innovation. I will do the work of marketing that will ensure I will be successful.
Marketing requires a crazy amount of work.
It's
relentlessness.
It's relentless discipline.
Yeah.
You've got to have the discipline, and then you do all the things that you know you need to do. And guess what? It probably is going to work out. I can go out there and look for a magic bullet on something new.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that'll work, but boy, the odds sure go down. That's all I know.
And so, like, the question is how do you engage others in your team to do that? Because I'll be honest with you, like from my perspective as an entrepreneur, and it drives me nuts because I think that a lot of the team, in my experience, not just teams in general,
Not any specific. Yeah. I get
yeah. But I really genuinely have a desire for them to engage because it's not about me.
You want to see them be successful.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely. I want to see them be part of something that's bigger than them.
I get that.
And
totally.
then they look around and they're like, I did that. And I did it with so-and-so and such and such. And we did that together. Yeah. Like when I look back on my life and career, the best times of my life were working with a group of people.
Of course. And accomplishing
something together. And it's usually in those times, like you were talking about, when things were really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Right. I mean, that's such a satisfying feeling.
It's actually, when I look back, it's like the most enjoyable times in my career.
I know.
Most rewarding times in my career. There wasn't a lot of money flying around. There wasn't a lot of fancy stuff.
Yep.
You know, it was like just down, dirty, working, being excellent, overcoming ourselves, overcoming the barriers, beating competitors, doing what everybody said that we couldn't do. The underdog life, man.
Right. That's where the satisfaction comes in.
100%.
I know. And you want people to experience that because
100%.
you understand that's rewarding, psychically rewarding.
100%.
Okay. But it's also can be rewarding for them financially.
Dude, that's the way it paid out. That's my experience.
Yeah, I know.
Anybody that made it through that are doing pretty well.
Exactly.
And moving up.
Right.
You know?
It's like we're not going to be able to do any better for you as an individual if the organization is stuck where it is.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's not all just a matter of the owner's greed or not greed.
Yeah.
Like how much do I give back or how much do I not? It's the organization and what it creates is what determines what you can do.
You know, I think as we talk about this engaging employees, right? Yeah. I think there's a 50-50 here.
Okay.
So I do believe that there is a responsibility for myself or for leaders in the company, and it's not just me, it's any leadership. Or if you want to be a leader in a company, you need to like have engagement. And that needs to be on top of your mind. How do we engage the team right in this? And we can talk about that. But I'd say there's a 50% that we don't even need to really talk about that is left up to the responsibility of the individual to engage them freaking selves into what they're doing.
Boy, amen to that. I mean, you can't do it for everybody.
No.
You can try.
You can, but there's only so far you can go. And so go ahead.
No, you're right. But there is a precedent to that, though, I think. Well, it's not necessarily a precedent, but what makes it work is the owner's got to be engaged.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
It's not just if the owner's not engaged, how do you expect the employees to be engaged?
Mark, I'm going to sit here and say I have been slapped in the face multiple times in business, and every time it's about me losing engagement.
Me too. I would admit that.
I mean, like I get tired.
Right.
Or I get
lazy, or you got other things that you're doing.
Or I get distracted.
Yeah.
Or I get pulled into this and I get disengaged with my own company. Or I think that I maybe have arrived somewhere.
Right. I should
and I don't have
to do that.
To.
Yeah, I get it.
You know, every time
wrong.
You know, just absolutely slapped across the face.
Karma slaps you and big time, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then even if I'm not engaged, it's like I'm it's like it doesn't mean much to me either.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
But when I get engaged, it's when I get back into the grind, and it's just ugly. But you're right. If you're not engaged, your team's not going to be engaged in the business. Like it drifts off to waters you can't even understand. Like how in the hell did it get over there?
Yeah.
And then trying to pull it back in is so much hard work.
Oh, it's really hard. It's like you slip down the hill and now you got to pull it all the way back up just to get to where you need to be. And
so what we're saying here is if you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur or you're thinking about going into entrepreneurship, and you think for one split second that you can halvesies be in this business that you're starting, you're 1,000% wrong. You will get slapped across the face.
Yeah, unless you just get lucky. I mean, it's possible you could get lucky and just this superstar ends up in your lap and they just do everything. I have seen a few situations like that. But again, the odds are against that. I mean, you can get lucky. You can walk down the street and find $1,000 laying there too. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I haven't been lucky like that.
It's the odds are not. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, So I agree with you 100%. So it starts with you being engaged. You got to find the right people. Not everybody is going to be able to do it. they don't all have the background or whatever due to their parenting or due to just genetics. We don't know. We don't care.
No.
It's just they're not all going to do it.
That's right.
The problem is, so how do you get enough of them who will do it? I mean, I do think it starts with when people evidence themselves as not being engaged in spite of your best efforts over an extended period of time.
Yeah.
But not too extended.
Right.
You need to move them off the team.
Well, that's what. Yeah, that's right.
Pollute other people.
And you need to feel the ability, like you can only, like we were talking about, 50%. Like you can only do so much. You can only engage others so much. The other part's left up to them, and you shouldn't feel bad about that.
Yeah, exactly. If they don't do it, it's not your fault at some level.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
So how do we engage the ones that say, let's say I am engaged, I've chosen a decent team, right?
Yeah.
And, you know,
You're getting the non-engagers off the team.
Oh, non-engagers are off the team. How do we engage the engagers? Like, how do we get them to be more engaged in the company?
I think number one, in my opinion, and I doubt you would disagree with this, is you as the owner, manager, have to commit to being a growth business. Don't rationalize the fact that we're going to stay small but be successful.
Right.
Okay, that's automatically puts a cap on everything.
That's so true.
And there's so many small business owners that think like that. Well, if I can do $1 million a year, I make 150 and I'll be happy with that. Okay. As soon as that becomes clear to your employees, death.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck having engaged employees. If that's your mentality.
Right.
So you got to commit to a growth company.
And even if you have a company like that and they're not being engaged, the good ones are going to bounce out because you put a cap on them, on their growth level. Like the really shining stars are not going to stick with your company.
Why would you work in a place like that? I wouldn't even consider it.
No.
The moment I discovered that in one company I was in, I got opted out.
Yeah.
I had a great job. I was making over $100,000 a year. I wasn't even 30 years old yet. Company car, company country club membership.
Yeah, man.
Okay. I mean, this is freaking 1986, 7.
Yeah.
I could have stayed in that.
Yeah. And just be disengaged for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Just but
it's not growing. The place isn't growing. There's only so good. I'm only going to go so far.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
environment.
So true. That's the first one. What's another way?
I think
engaging.
I think another way, again, I mean, some of this stuff we've talked about before, but I mean, sharing in the business planning and not making the business plan a secret. I mean, I think those two kind of go hand in hand. Like we got to get people participating.
Yeah.
In what we're, how are we going to accomplish this vision? Okay. They don't set the vision, by the way.
True.
You set the vision.
Right.
Okay. You set the mission. Why are you in business? What are you trying to become? That's your responsibility as the owner.
Yeah.
But how to get there and the details and some of the tasks and all, we've got to get their involvement in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, what's interesting about that, and at least it's been my experience, like I've done pretty well on establishing like a purpose, mission, vision and stuff.
You strike out a big vision.
Yeah, it's there. It's there to read. My problem is I don't revisit it and recast it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Or as frequent as I need to. I don't know that you can beat that down too much. Like it should be like I've seen some companies do it really well.
Yeah.
But it's just in everywhere and every nook and cranny. That's awesome. That's like what I think is true, really great branding.
Yeah.
Folks. But it's always interesting to me, like if vision can be cast, everybody's on the same page, you walk out the door, that might last for about 48 hours. And then people get confused again. It's because and sometimes I get confused with the vision, but there's an ability, I think, as an entrepreneur where you're, it's 90% of what you're thinking is anyway. It's like a natural thing. Like you saw it to begin with when nothing was there. And then when distractions come in, you can realign a lot easier, I think, than maybe some of the team can.
Yeah.
But it's your job.
Because you see the big picture.
Because you see the big picture and you despise the distractions.
Yeah.
But it's your job to come back and you got to understand the rest of the team can get distracted or confused or they talk or people talk to them. Clients might say something.
They don't have the same perspective. They don't have the same experience that you have.
That's right. And the and it just reminds me of this conversation. I need to do this again, like recasting that vision, getting people back in line, get them everybody pointing. What you want as a company, as a leaders, and talk about engagement. The ultimate objective of engagement is we're all pointed in the same direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
The compass, the wind behind you, the sails are upright. Everybody's in their right spot, right seat in the bus to get that ship, right?
Yep.
Pointing in the right direction. That's true of what engagement is.
Yep.
We're all a team rowing in the same freaking direction.
Yes. Then we get this efficiency and we get this performance that you're not going to get if they're not all thinking that way.
Tomorrow, for one of the companies, we're actually doing like an offsite working session together, and diagramming our processes together.
Yeah.
And I think that's an effort of engagement.
Diagramming processes. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because that's a perfect example of where I think a lot of problems are. When the lack of engagement is there, then that people tend to follow the established process, whatever that happens to be, and not improve it.
Oh, yeah.
Or not question it.
Yeah.
And go, why are we doing A, B, and C? We could just go from A to C and get rid of B altogether because it doesn't do anything for us.
Yeah.
But that takes engagement.
It does.
And
we got to know that those things kind of creep up. B might creep up at some point, or B was relevant yesterday, but it's not anymore today.
Exactly.
And so revisiting that is like a very, very critical thing to do in order for people to be engaged.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
You have to engage in the process for the process to engage the team.
Yes.
It's like this never-ending cycle.
Yes.
That we have to do. And so we're about to get a little bit more serious about that, and getting the team together to think about what we've been doing, where are we at, how can we improve all these things?
Well, that's a normal evolution. I mean, I don't know what company you're talking about of yours or where it is in its life cycle. But once it gets rolling along and it's been there for a little bit, you better go back and take a hard look at all this.
Yeah.
Because it, like you said, it evolved. Times have changed. The scenario is different now. There's new information that we didn't have before. There's new capabilities in the firm that we didn't have before.
Yep.
So those things do need to be questioned. So just looking at this here, disengaged employees cost U.S. businesses $438 billion a year. I don't know where that number ever came up.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay. I mean, I got to believe it's more than that anyway. I mean, heck, the deficit is freaking close to 40 trillion. So 438 billion doesn't seem like that big of a number.
No, it doesn't.
Engagement directly impacts the bottom line. That's according to Gallup. AI is helping small businesses onboard faster and improve morale. Okay, well, is that critical to engagement? Yeah, I guess it is.
Right? Well, no, 100%. Well, I mean, I think that on that topic, right, like it's about, AI is about getting rid of a lot of the monotonous work.
Yeah.
That allows people to think better and actually do their work a little bit more efficiently. And that will help improve morale. But you have to work to get the AI to work for you.
Well, and they've got to have something else to do or be directed toward instead of just AI does my job and now I don't do anything.
Yeah, it should take off a lot of the clutter work so that you can think freely. It's kind of like going back to the whole process thing we were talking about, right? If I can automate a work or a process or a point in my process, then that allows me to think about other things that might be broken or can be made more efficient. That's actually fun, and that can lift morale.
That makes sense to me. 73% of employees feel anxious about rapid tech changes. Training and inclusion are key. Count me in on that. I hate the technology change, but I sometimes it's dumb, but more often than not, today it seems like it makes sense.
Well,
it's like, I was resisting conversion of our learning management platform at U of A from the old Blackboard to the new, and like, oh God, I don't want to learn. I figured that old one out over 19 years of using it. I'm finally completely versed in it to do what I want to do, and now they're going to change it. Boy, the new one's a hell of a lot better. That's all I can say. Everything's better in it.
Man, that resistance to adaptation of technology is, I think, is basic human nature. But in today's time, man, we gotta I mean, you talk about going back to our original discussion of survivalship.
Yeah.
And being,
it's essential to be able to survive.
100% essential today.
Yeah, it's like, do you want to be the ones with the bow and arrows when you're
right?
When you're,
enemy's got freaking guns.
Yeah, they've got, fully automatic weapons or whatever. Yeah, I know. It's just like that.
Exact same analogy, though.
Yeah,
we have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to embrace technology.
I've always used bow and arrow, though, Eric.
Well, I know you love that.
I've always used it.
You'll be shot
and
a lot faster than you can even load your arrow. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. That's what's going to happen.
Right.
Ready to level up your show? At podcastvideos.com, we offer industry-leading recording and expert marketing to help your show reach more listeners. From creation to distribution, we've got you covered. Visit podcastvideos.com and elevate your podcast today.
But I mean, I think that's a big topic of conversation today. You talk about and how we actually have been through this with podcast videos. The reality of AI, the reality of automated processes, the reality of technology continuing to advance. I mean, if we don't adapt to that, we will not even have a company to engage with. It's just what has to happen.
I get it. We're going through the same thing at Janus Motorcycles with this MRP system. If we cannot get that implemented, we can't go back to the old paper system and one person knows where everything is. And this guy drives around with bins and takes them to a place to fill them up with parts or whatever. Not going to work anymore. That only takes you to a certain level.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go beyond that, you've got to have these systems. It takes a wholesale change of everything. Not everybody gets on board with that, though.
No, they're very resistant. And I mean, but there is no other option.
We know that.
Yeah.
Do they know that?
No, they don't really know that.
How do we get them to understand that?
I think that part of that is, what we're trying to exercise at least. Like, I get it, right? Like if I can understand there's a threat to maybe what I have been doing in my role, that technology can either automate or the burden of learning a new tool. I mean, all those things are really challenging, I think the thing about it is first you have to establish, a culture of embracing and evolving with those changes. Like it has to be, you have to have speed as one of your top pillars.
Oh God, thank you.
Speed, that ability to relentlessly change and adapt. And that is who we are and what we do, period. And so in our
I agree,
in our podcast videos, I'm like, guys, look, this is a fast moving industry.
Right.
If you can't, this isn't the right place for you.
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't, you are not going to be happy. So it kind of goes back to choosing the right people.
I've always wanted to have speed awards for people in the company who demonstrate that they do things quickly.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Whether that's responding to a customer or changing something that's broken or whatever. Speed, man. Speed is all about.
In every nook and cranny of every business going on today, like that is because of what technology is doing to you have to have that as one of your top pillars.
You do, you're right. But that again though is I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of the great things about being a small business.
Oh yeah, speed.
We can be faster and more fleet and more responsive than big companies. They've got all that investment and that sunk cost and that old way of doing things. If you think it's hard to change this in a 20-person company, try doing it in a 20,000 person
100%.
company.
100%.
Okay?
That is your cutting edge advantage of a small business.
That's it, right there. Speed.
Around. Yeah,
it is.
And I'll be honest with you, like what we're experiencing with tech is allowing smaller companies to be even faster than what they've ever been able to be before. And to your point, they can beat. You can enter into the market as a small 2-person, 5-person company, leveraging all the technology and kick the butts out of me. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It really is.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah,
but we've got to get everybody to see that. We've got to get everybody to understand that. We've got to get everybody to understand that they will benefit personally.
So to that point, this one of our exercises, our workshop, right? A working session to where you get on your computer. We have somebody that's consulting or talking and going and doing the workshop for us. That's going to have us get our hands on the keyboard and create, a process or in the whole team will experience that as a group. and then they can.
It's like a hackathon.
It is like a hackathon,
isn't it?
Yeah,
Here's the problem, go solve it.
Yeah, we go solve it. We solve it together.
Yeah.
It gets you familiar. It takes you out of being isolated and overwhelmed by it. You know, and then this negative feedback that happens underground. Well, I didn't do that. You know, I'm not going to do that. I don't have enough time. I'm not getting paid enough.
I don't have enough time. Oh my God.
All these negative things that breed in the culture. Yeah. But if we bring everybody together and say, guys, look, we as a team are doing this.
I love it.
This is brand new for everyone, right? Yeah. So let's get in here and get this figured out. And then it exposes them, and then they have the confidence. And then they can see like, oh, this will help me out. This is actually going to save me a lot of time.
We started watching a really good documentary. I haven't finished it yet on Twitter. And how they started it. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I haven't seen it.
But, I mean, they were working on other problems completely when their whole business model just evaporated overnight.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, now what are we going to do? And they just came up with ideas. Everybody come up with ideas, okay? Let's come up with a new application. Let's come up with a new, program.
Yeah.
And they did it.
Yeah.
Okay? It's very exciting.
I think there's there's a whole different level of thinking that's happening in Silicon Valley. And I think that is what probably the apex of it all is that a lot of these companies start without knowing what the product is.
Yeah.
They just have a general idea or using tech stack or whatever it might be.
Or they got really talented people.
Yeah. There's a market problem to go solve. We don't know exactly what our end product is, but having that freedom to just get together and figure it out together as a team is what's driving a lot of these highly innovative, big freaking exiting companies. Because it's just like, it's not only Twitter, but I mean, like a lot of these companies are doing the same thing. Like Airbnb, Uber, all of them are didn't really have Uber when they first started out with this perfect thesis plan and forecast model.
Well, eBay didn't either. They're selling, the guy came up with it to sell his girlfriend's Pez dispensers or whatever. That was the foundation of it.
Yeah, and then it just drives everything.
Yeah, yeah, that's exciting. This is really interesting. Few other things here. Top-ranked small businesses offer flexibility, ownership, and mental health support, according to the Times UK Best Small Companies. Within some constraints. I mean, the flexibility is great, but the problem I think with a lot of people with their idea of flexibility is that my work is 40 hours, and then I want you to be flexible within the 40 hours, how much I do. I got a problem with that.
Yeah.
If your work is unlimited, your work time, and you want to be flexible, and you get done a lot of stuff because, you're working all the time, or you're taking off, but for 2 hours, but then you're coming back to it at 8 o'clock at night or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
Totally.
Be flexible within my 40 hours, so I really don't have to work 40 hours.
Right.
I think that's what a lot of people's idea is, unfortunately.
It kind of goes back to about what is that person, what is their perspective about what their work really is? Like, why are they working? You know, I mean, like, what have they been taught? What are their beliefs? Like, all those types of things that impact that flexibility. It can be abused really quickly.
Boy, it can. And the railing against the man.
Yeah.
The man is here to exploit me, as opposed to I can work this system to my own benefit.
Right.
It's just, when they have the attitude that they're being exploited, and they think like a factory worker from 1900. Okay. I guess that's part of the programming we were talking about earlier, where you may not be able to change. You may not be able to overcome that. No matter how much information and visioning and team building and everything that you do, you may not be able to overcome that.
Which is unfortunate, because it really ends up impacting that team member more than it impacts anybody else.
Yeah.
Because the ship will keep sailing, if under the right leadership and drive, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I have seen that happen over and over again with individuals that have the incorrect programming as to the intent of a company and its growth, but they're bringing in baggage from previous things or from things that they've been taught and they've understood. And it's what business is all about.
That's huge.
Business, like in and I think that's fine in your perspective, and a lot of small business owners' perspective. They're starting it because they see something, and they're trying to solve it, and they just want the best for everyone and everything.
Yeah, they're not just starting it to make a lot of money.
Right.
That's the thing people don't understand. It's the same thing. Sorry for the distraction.
Yeah.
But it's just like, people complain about the city of Fayetteville and how difficult it is to be a real estate developer there. Development projects there are harder to do than they are here in Benton County. Mm-hmm. So you guys are getting more business. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Right? So, but here, the problem in the city of Fayetteville with the staff, the planning department, the engineering, building safety, whatever, the attitude is that if you are a real developer, that you are only a developer because you're greedy and want to make a lot of money.
Right.
It's usually way down on the list.
It is. They just one bad apple spoils a whole bunch.
Right. You want to improve the city. You want to provide housing for people who need it. You want to have a better place to shop, you have this vision for what the city could be and how these things could be used and how the money is not the primary driver, but the implicit assumption is that you're evil and greedy. And I think a lot of workers think like that about their owners.
I agree 100%. I would end this with this statement. I really think that this podcast topic should be, instead of how does a company engage employees, it's really how do employees engage with the company. Because if you ask my opinion as being a small business owner for a number of years, that's more of the problem. In all honesty, I'll just be...
Well, they got to select the industry they've got a passion for. You already said
exactly, but so many times people come to a company with wrong intentions.
Yeah, no,
can we reverse this societal perspective here in a way? I know it's touchy, but my experience has shown a lot of times when things don't work out, it's the individual person coming to a small business that is not really wanting to engage with the business. They are doing it for whatever other reason, and it makes this friction type of scenario, when the reality is when I've seen on the opposite side with people that have engaged with the business have been rewarded tremendously.
Yeah.
With experience, money, growth in career. And so...
Well, maybe they want a lifestyle job. Really, I want to be a musician.
Yeah.
But I need this job so I can pay my rent and eat or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. That's bad. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not looking for people like that in our company. Right. We're looking for people who want to get more out of it than that. It's not just a means of existence.
Yes. And I think that's kind of goes at one point, like now, are there positions and roles of where that can be it, right? It's just
maybe you work in the mailroom and it's only open 8 hours a day or whatever.
Everybody's fine. You're not trying to go places. I'm not trying to make you go places.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all good. Handshake and done.
Yeah,
right?
But you're going to make $15 an hour. Don't expect to get more than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, have the right expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about like being married. What are our expectations here?
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. Well, it always comes back to getting the right people.
Yeah.
And like you said, they've got to be making good decisions on what kind of organizations they're joining. Mm-hmm. Do you think maybe we misrepresent what the situation is in an attempt to sell people to come to our company?
I think I have misrepresented much more than I have represented correctly. Actually, it comes down to the interview process. I don't think about it when it's time for
It's always fun. It's going to be fun to work here.
Yeah, man, I got this going on, and I'm over here all excited, but I'm not ever asking questions about what are your ambitions? What are you trying to accomplish? Because I think that that's really important. I have gotten better over the years. My interviews now look like, hey, look, here's my interview process now. Listen, I just want you to know, interviewee, this is going to be the hardest work that you've ever done in your life.
Yeah.
I expect everything, and I am unrealistic, and we're going to go to the moon. And I'm doing everything that everyone's telling me that cannot be done. But I'm looking for a team of rising stars to join me in this fight.
Yeah. If we're going to the moon, if you think that's not possible to go to the moon,
don't join this team, man.
Don't come on board, huh?
That is kind of my interview process now, you know. But I think that my attempt there is to set a little bit of expectation that this is not the mailroom job.
Yeah.
You know, because like we're gonna hurt each other if we do that.
No, you're absolutely right. I love that. Well, I think we're afraid to do that because a lot of us are, because the labor pool's tight.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
or at least we think it's tight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's as tight as people think, because I think they've got the wrong criteria half the time. They're looking for education and experience instead of attitude and drive and personality attributes.
That's all I'm looking for, man.
You know,
attitude.
Yeah, I believe that. Unfortunately, we're out of time. We need to say goodbye to our listeners.
So goodbye, listeners.
Goodbye, listeners. Until next week, it's been another episode of
Big Talk About Small Business.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Big Talk About Small Business. If you have any questions or ideas for upcoming shows, be sure to head over to our website, www.bigtalkaboutsmallbusiness.com, and click on the Ask the Host button for the chance to have your questions answered on the show. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn at Big Talk About Small Business. And be sure to head over to our website to read articles, browse episodes, and ask questions about upcoming shows.